Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Please take a seat. It's a big pleasure for me to open the second day of Central European Energy Conference, which took place here in Bratislava. And according to the program, the topic of the panel number 4 is regional integration of gas markets and security of supply. Because it is the first panel which is devoted to the gas industry and gas business as a whole, I would like to introduce a few introductory remarks, mainly concerning to the position and situation of natural gas in Europe, which seems to be very gloomy. As you know, natural gas consumption is permanently decreasing, but you know that it doesn't work. As you know, the European energy policy has been based on 3 corner pillars: competitiveness, security of supply, and sustainability. And the objections to natural gas in Europe is as follows. Gas is expensive, gas is dirty, gas is unreliable. To describe the situation of natural gas in Europe, I have used the story from Greek mythology. You certainly know the Greek heroes, Odysseus. Odysseus, together with his friends, has to sail between 2 mythic rockies, Scylla and Charybda. On the Scylla side, there was living fire drake with many heads. On the other hand was the Charybdis, which produced huge waves, which was very dangerous for all ships on the sea. And related to competitiveness, natural gas in Europe is squeezed between cheap coal and subsidized renewables. The similar situation is concerning to security of supply. The natural gas is squeezed between demand of gas and geopolitical aspects. You know that mainly Baltic states and Central European states are totally dependent on the Russian supplies. Situation in Baltic states is in this time very good, thanks to LNG terminal Klaipėda in Lithuania. And the same situation is from ecological aspects, where natural gas is squeezed between clean energy and fossil fuels. Clean energy, wind, nuclear, solar, fossil fuels, oil and coal, and enemies of natural gas are pushing natural gas among these dirty fossil fuels. Hence it follows that the key energy challenges for Europe in the area of price competitiveness is to build a single integrated gas market. Excuse me, I have forgotten to turn off. Enlarged Europe can become the largest and most liquid gas market in the world because the pipeline import capacity is 464 BCM a year, storage capacity is 94 BCM, and LNG import capacity is 193 BCM. Concerning to security of supply, the key energy challenges is diversification of sources of gas supply. you can see the possibilities which Europe in this issue has. Finally, concerning the climate agenda, the key energy challenges is strong partnership between gas and renewables and strengthen emission trading scheme with complementary policies. Concerning to the topic of our panel, on 18th of November 2015, the European Commission published the Union list of projects of common interest as an Annex 7 to EU regulation number 347. From Central European point of view, is very important two priority corridors, corridor north-south gas interconnections and priority corridor southern gas corridor. And I decided to compare the situation in September 2015 with the situation 2 months later. You can see that in September they are Czech-Polish interconnector and Slovak-Polish interconnector as a part of interconnector north-south, which connects LNG terminal on Baltic coast Svinovice with energy terminal on Adriatic coast in Omišalj. I assume that about this topic will be discussed and will have a presentation our Polish colleague. Very important pipeline is in this corridor also pipeline so-called BRUA, which connect Romania, Hungary and Austria, and it will be the part of the presentation of our colleague Ciprian Octavian Alic, director from TRANSGAZ, transmission system operator from Romania. 2 months later, the situation was changed. Into the list of projects of common interest were included 3 important projects. Project GAZ-SYSTEM, this abbreviation means bidirectional Austrian-Czech interconnector. And to be honest, I don't see the sense of this project. I don't understand the intention for this project because 30 kilometers in eastern direction is in operation eustream project, eustream pipeline from Baumgarten to Lanžhot, but I am strongly convinced that our Czech colleagues, Kehr, Director of Business Development from Naftogaz, Czech transmission system operator, will explain us the intention for support Czech Republic for this project. The other 2 projects is Tesla and eustream, which connect Central Europe with southern gas corridor for transport Caspian gas and probably also Russian gas across the Turkish stream. Many of you remember that in this hall 1 year ago, Mr. Tomáš Mareček, chairman of the board of directors for eustream, joint stock company, give the proposal to build a new project, eustream. And the importance of this project was underlined 10 days later when Mr. Andriy Miller said and announced that the Gazprom decided to to cancel South Stream project, and hereby arose very difficult situation because in October 2014 also announced the Russian president bypassing of Ukraine. It means at the end of 2018 will be terminated gas supplies from Russian Federation across the Ukraine to the Central Europe. And about this issue and how developed the Ukraine-Russian gas relation in this time, it could be topic for the presentation of Andriy Kobolyev, chairman of the board of directors from National Stock Company Naftogaz of Ukraine. In the framework of this panel, obviously we will discuss not only security of supply issues, but also gas market and regional integration of gas markets. And I am very happy that we have here the most competent person from this area, Mr. Janez Kopač, Director of Energy Community Secretariat in Vienna. Ladies and gentlemen, I have introduced our distinguished panelists, and now I would like to give the floors to the first presentation, to the first speaker, Tomáš Mareček. Tomáš, the floor is yours.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank Mr. Klepáč for the introduction, and I would also like to thank all the team of Mr. Duleba for organizing this event. My presentation, as you can see, has its specific name. It's called 2016, Year of the Max-Q, which is abbreviation for the maximum dynamic pressure. Maximum dynamic pressure in aerospace engineering is a specific term which refers to the point at which aerodynamic pressure reaches its maximum when rocket starts to the space. I believe that most of you have seen the famous movie Apollo 13, starring Tom Hanks, or that you watched at least some start of space shuttle or any other rocket. If you watch it closely, you will notice that somewhere during the flight, like 60 to 70 seconds after start, approximately 11 or 12 kilometers above ground, there is usually short note, we are approaching the max-Q, or we approached the point of maximum dynamic pressure. This is very important because the dynamic pressure is actually the force which is being developed by the friction of the air against the rocket. It's a function of density of the air and the speed of the rocket. You can imagine it like if you are driving a car very fast, you pull down the window and you just put your hands out of the car. And now imagine that you are traveling 3,000 kilometers an hour. What will probably happen? That is why this point is critical test for the quality of design and quality of construction of the rocket. Therefore, when starting or launching a rocket, when the rocket is approaching this max-Q point, or point of maximum dynamic pressure, the thrust of the engines is usually reduced for a short period of time, for somewhere between 60 to 70%. That means that you just took your foot off the gas pedal, so you decrease the speed slightly in order to pass through the max-Q point, and then you accelerate again. I will explain that this will be very important in the gas business, especially in the next year. So, good news first. eustream. I think that eustream presented this project, as Mr. Klepáč said, last year at this conference. It was proposed as a bidirectional big pipeline connecting Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria to Turkish border, capacity between 20 to 40 BCM, which should secure the security of supply of the whole Balkan countries, provide them with alternative sources and alternative routes for the gas. It will enable Turkey to buy gas which can be price of which can be linked to the Western hubs. And the third thing is that there is the largest corridor that is still missing in this region. The important milestones, as I said, the project was proposed at this conference last year. We managed to set up a working group together with our partners in Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria. We made the hydraulic calculations, detailed routing. We managed to get the project on the European 10-year network development plan in less than 6 months. And in less than 12 months, we managed to get the project on the European list of projects of common interest. I think this is the world record. So I would like to thank all participants that supported us during this journey. I think, no, maybe one slide back. Good news first, number 2, part Ukraine. I think most important message is that Ukrainian central corridor proved to be a reliable gas transit corridor, which is often being discussed in media. We believe that it was partially thanks to commissioning of Vojany reverse flow pipeline. Again, major milestones. Memorandum was signed in April 2014. eustream and its team implemented the project within 4 months. We started commercial operations last September, and since the beginning of this project, we transported almost 13 billion cubic meters of gas. And we believe that it was also thanks to the, I would say, professional cooperation from our partners from Ukrainian side, both from Naftogaz as a mother company and especially TRANSGAZ and the technical staff of this company. Now the bad news. Bad news today in gas business, especially in this region, is called Nord Stream 3 and 4, sometimes called Nord Stream number 2. I think this is well-known slide which shows the existing routes for sending Russian gas to Europe. Just to repeat briefly, the existing capacity for exporting Russian gas to Europe plus Turkey, you can see on the left side, it's combined without Nord Stream 2, because this is only a proposed project. The combined capacity is around 250 billion cubic meters. The actual utilization last year was around 150. So today, or in 2014, there was still 100 billion cubic meters of spare capacity for the Russian gas to Europe. So there is no need to build any new pipeline. In case there is full utilization of existing non-Ukrainian pipelines, existing Nord Stream, existing Yamal, and existing Blue Stream to the Turkey, and if Nord Stream 2 is built, then Russia will not need Ukrainian transit at all, and the Ukrainian transit will die. I think this is the well-known fact. The overall impact of implementation of this project would be worsening the position of whole European Union, and especially Central and Eastern Europe, not mentioning Ukraine. Because if Nord Stream 3 and 4 is built, then the Ukrainian route from the Russian perspective, will become redundant. The Ukraine will be deprived of approximately $2 billion of gas transmission revenues. That means that the Ukrainians will get close to $0 for maintaining their system. And such a huge system cannot be maintained for free, which means that sooner or later it will have to be dismantled. And Europe will lose, in that case, 140 billion cubic meters of gas import pipeline alternative. We will have Nord Stream 1, Nord Stream 2 and Yamal, but no reserve and no alternative for the future, because Ukrainians will not be able to maintain their system if there is no revenues from transit. There are three players in this game. First one is Russia, which is opposite to what you can read in media, really strong and clever. The stated goal of Russia is bypassing Ukraine with the gas transmission. Russia, unlike Europe, has long-term strategic thinking. They don't need quick wins. Unlike Europe, Russia has fast-track decision-making process and can very effectively speak with one voice only. No discussions. Russia has exceptional ability to use almost any external environment for its own benefit. You can see it in two, I would say, examples. One is low oil prices. In theory, low oil prices should be to the detriment of Russia. But in fact, the low oil prices are hurting most the Western oil and gas big companies. That means that these companies are therefore in dire straits, and because they are looking only at the next quarter results, that's all they care for, they are relatively easily to be bought. And Russia knows it. So Russia can easily propose to those companies which are desperately need some new profit. Russia can offer them, look, you can go to Russia, we can grant you an access to our gas fields, but you have to participate in Nord Stream 3 and 4. Deal done. And we can read in newspapers that this is business as usual. Russia, of course, is master in PR and propaganda, and has historically deeply rooted cooperation with Germany, which is important, and I will show it in a few minutes. Second player in this game is Ukraine. Problem is that Ukraine has difficult relations with their most logical trading partner and long-term partner, which is Russia, due to Crimea and war in the east. The economy is exhausted due to the war and also due to the other reasons. There is urgent need for further reforms, and what is problematic that there is urgent need for external financial aid for the economy as well. So the economy is very fragile. And what is, I think, the biggest problem, that probably Ukraine is not #1 priority on the European agenda anymore. It was the case last year, but it's not anymore, unfortunately. Player number 3, Europe, which is rich, weak, and fragmented. Europe is a rich society with, as I said, weak energy companies due to low oil price and due to the several strategic mistakes. For example, German decommissioning of nukes, Energiewende, and so on. The companies in Western Europe are short-term focused on next quarter results, and the politicians in Europe are focused only on next elections. There are too many non-correlated interests, and there is no single voice, unfortunately, or no single voice, European voice, yet. I think we can see first start with Energy Union and Maroš Šefčovič, but there is still a long way to go. Due to the above mentioned, there is inability to solve more than one problem at once. And here you can see last 18 months, the problems that Europe faced that you can read on the first pages of the newspapers. Firstly, it was Ukraine, then it was Greek and bailing out German and French banks, then it was Iran and nuclear deal, then it was refugee crisis, now it is Islamic State and war on terror. Logically, but the problem is that Europe cannot solve more than one problem at a time. And even that is a problem, to find a single voice to solve just a single problem. But the major problem today in this region and in Europe is the behavior of Germany. And what is most incredible, for me personally, was the Joachim von Ribbentrop-style visit to Moscow, which was not in August 1939, but which took place 3 weeks ago. But you can read with me. My personal opinion is that we must do everything possible to implement the agreements we have reached, and as far as past situations and various interpretations of events are concerned, we should leave them in the past and find new ways to renew cooperation, especially between Germany and Russia. Andriy, it's designed for you, by the way. Mr. Miller and Mr. Warning will continue to pursue Nord Stream 2 project. This is in our interest. But this is not just Germany's interest. It's a very interesting project, even beyond Germany's border. And what is most important, as far as legal issues are concerned, is that we strive to ensure that all this remains under the competence of the German authorities, if possible. So if we can do this, then opportunities for external meddling will be limited. You can interpret external meddling of European Commission and implementing normal European laws. And we are in good negotiating position on this matter. So this was not Ribbentrop before World War II. This was German Vice Chancellor and Economy Minister Sigmar Gabriel visiting Vladimir Putin in Moscow 3 weeks ago. So concluding remarks, 2016 will be the year of the maximum dynamic pressure in this region and in the gas industry in Europe. The fate of the Nord Stream 3 and 4 and of the Ukrainian transit, and as well as Ukraine, will be decided in 2016. The decision will not be made in Moscow or Kiev. It will be made in Berlin. The pressure will be enormous. We will hear and read in newspapers that this is only a commercial project, that Germany doesn't need any nod from the European Commission, that they can decide only on German territory, that this is only commercial. The problem is that if the key players in this game, and we've seen them, will push too hard when approaching this maximum dynamic pressure point, we believe that some structure in Europe may start to crack, and the European project may start falling apart, especially in this part of Europe. The future of the energy security of Ukraine, of the V4 countries, and the European Union as such is too important to be decided only in, as we say, Deutschland GmbH. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tomáš, for your beautiful presentation with many historical roots. And now I would like to give the floor to Andriy Kobolyev, Chairman of the Board of Directors, National Joint Stock Company, Naftogaz of Ukraine.
Good morning. Thank you very much for coming here for this opportunity to talk about Ukraine's position on such an important issue of gas market developments, gas transit, and cooperation between different European countries, Ukraine and Russian Federation, gas matters, the topic that Mr. Mareček touched upon in very deep detail. And I am personally very much surprised to the level of honesty that was put into that presentation. This is probably the first time that issues of cooperation between European countries are discussed in such an honest manner, at least from my personal experience. I will start with my presentation, and I will make a brief description of the homework Ukraine has done so far, because we in Ukraine also clearly understand that before we embark on full integration, let's say in gas sphere with European market, we should make our domestic things compliant with European rules. So we'll start with something we have achieved for the last year and a half. Gas market law became effective from the 1st of October this year. It was a result of quite long discussions in the Parliament. Not all bylaws are operational at the moment. Still, work needs to be done, and we hope that by the end of 2016, or to be more specific, by the 1st of April of 2017, when all prices for all consumer categories will be brought to market level. That might even happen a bit earlier, but let's say that the final plan agreed with IMF is such. Then we will have full operational gas market in Ukraine, which will be pretty much similar to the markets of countries in the European Union. What has been achieved so far is, if you look at the lower part of the slide, you will see the difference of distribution of gas imports between two major sources. The old historically major source for Ukraine is Russian Federation, which comprised 92% of total imports of gas to Ukraine in 2013. And now it takes only 30% this year, with the rest of the volume coming from European direction. And I'm very happy to be in Slovakia, because Slovakia is the major route for gas which is flown from European countries to Ukraine. Two other routes, such as Poland and Hungary, are also utilized, but the majority of all imports from EU direction are coming through Slovakia. As a result of new law and ability to import gas from other direction, if you look at the next slide, what has been already achieved, Naftogaz historically was the major importer of gas to Ukraine, being a state-owned monopoly, being a typical incumbent in a monopolized and limited access market. What has been done for the last year is that in October 2014, other importers of gas from EU took more than 50% of share of gas imports to Ukraine. We know that it sounds a bit strange from perspective of a company and commercial position of Naftogaz, but we purposefully invited other companies to import gas to Ukraine. They are free to sell gas to anyone they like, and as of today, more than 7 importers have entered Ukrainian market who are selling directly to Ukrainian customers, not to Naftogaz. And we hope this number will be growing with time, and we hope that by April 2017 the market will be fully liberalized, and the need in Naftogaz as a so-called guaranteed supplier will cease to exist. The role that Naftogaz will probably occupy by then will be the supply of last resort, unless other companies will offer their services to do so. But we believe that liberalization and demonopolization is the right way to implement real European norms of gas markets in Ukraine. Now I would like to move to a bit wider perspective from Ukraine to what Ukraine could do in a situation which we all would like to avoid, but still possible. For example, if there is gas supply cutoff, or if there is gas deficit from Russian Federation. Ukraine could be definitely used as a country through which flow from Slovakia of gas could be taken further to countries like Hungary, to countries like Slovenia, to countries like Serbia, to countries like Bulgaria. We understand that potential eustream project could probably fulfill the same purpose, but we would like to stress again that existing system of Ukrainian gas transmission system is perfectly capable of carrying gas from northern part of Europe to southeastern part of Europe, especially if we manage to resolve long-awaited issue of virtual reverse, or so-called backhaul, firstly between Ukraine and Slovakia, which we are still discussing, and we believe again that if not through negotiation process, but through arbitration process, this will definitely be resolved by 2017. This is an illustration of the route which can be used, and the system of Ukrainian gas transmission system, which can be used not only for storing gas, as you can see we have large unused capacities of underground gas storages in the western part of Ukraine, but also to connect different gas flows between different EU countries. And if you look, for example, at green lines, you will clearly see that gas which can be flown, for example, from Poland or from Slovakia can be then sent to, for example, Bulgaria or to Hungary. Now, speaking of backhaul issue, why it is so important for Ukraine, and we believe not only for Ukraine, but also for the whole region. It is important because, firstly, this will help us improve security of supply, not only of Ukraine, but of other countries, as I mentioned. But more importantly, this option will allow free flow of gas between countries, and this free flow of gas, as I will come later to this point, will be not critical, but can play a hugely important role in decision of other players, as Mr. Mareček mentioned, of whether Nord Stream 2, or a so-called Line 3 or 4, should be implemented and constructed. Now going to Nord Stream, and as we call it, direct stream, the line which goes, or the gas transmission route which goes through Ukraine. We all understand that this project is very far from commercial reality. If you look at numbers, we already have the system which is fully capable of carrying as much gas as needed. Nord Stream 2 will create excess capacity. This excess capacity will not serve diversification purpose because this is the same source of gas which was switched off or cut off gas supply to Europe in 2009 deliberately. So it doesn't change much from the point of view of security of supply. What it does change, it helps achieve certain political, geopolitical reasons and purposes of our Russian counterparts. And those political purposes are not decided in Gazprom, and as again Mr. Mareček correctly mentioned, there is one person who is making the decision. That why decisions are made quickly. I don't agree fully that they are well thought through and their consequences are clearly evaluated, but at least they are made quickly. Going back to issue of interconnection between Ukraine, Slovakia, Ukraine, Hungary, Ukraine, Poland. Why it is so important? We believe that in Moscow, people that make decisions, they believe that by creating Nord Stream 2, they would be able to strangle in terms of gas, not only Ukraine, but to put pressure on southeastern Europe as a region. Because then, if there is no direct stream through Ukraine, and we fully share this, because economically, if the route is not utilized, it's highly likely it will be descaled and at least partly shut down, because there will be no need to maintain it, and it's going to be too expensive and necessary exercise. So If that all happens, then this region will again become fully dependent on Russian gas. So one of the tactics which should be used from our point of view in preventing this project from implementation is showing firstly to Russian Federation, the main driving force of this project is that even if it's constructed, then this aim will not be reached. And if this aim will not be reached, then political dividends of creating Nord Stream 2 will become significantly less. And then potentially, combined with overall economic crisis, combined with low oil and gas prices, which ultimately lead to scarce financial resources of Gazprom, that all those factors combined might bring the person who is making decisions there to conclusion that this is not the wise step to make. The second very important issue which we would like again to mention here is, for example, we often hear in different European cabinets talking to different European officials that whatever we do in our relations with Gazprom, we should try not to upset the long-term partner of Europe. So on one hand, we are asked not to upset long-term partner of Europe. On the other hand, some European people, some companies, some countries behind us are striking a deal to circumvent Ukraine and to circumvent other countries, which we believe a not fair way to do business. That is why our message is quite straightforward here, that the principle of solidarity, which is so often discussed in Europe, should be also followed here. And we also agree that probably with the new developments, with migration problem, Ukraine is not the main topic on the European agenda at the moment. But we often hear that, for example, issue of migrants should be dealt in the manner of solidarity. So probably the manner of solidarity should be applied in the gas transportation market as well, so that everyone is consulted and the decisions which are made to the benefit of all participants, not only 2 or 3 countries. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Andriy, for your interesting presentation. The question and answers will follow after the last presentation, as obviously. And now I would like to give the floors to the Ciprian Octavian Alic, Director of EU Funds and International Relations from Romanian transmission system operator TRANSGAZ. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everybody, distinguished and honorable participants, dear friends. Yesterday, I participated the first day of the conference, and I listed some questions, because to put questions, I think it's easier than to give answers. But I will try in order to create a little bit in our conference interactivity for questions and answers. I will try to give you some answers before I started to show you the presentation, which is not very easy for me because before me, Tomáš and Andriy were very tough guys with very strong commitment and very good messages. And I will try to start to tell you that, yes, there is a market vulnerability in a very difficult geopolitical context. Of course, the European Union is the larger energy importer of the world, importing 53% of all the energy it consumes at the annual cost at about 400 billion of euros. Yes, we need infrastructure because we have a poorly integrated market, particularly across the borders, and uncoordinated national strategy policies often mean that European Union consumers and businesses do not benefit from increased choice or from lower energy prices. Yes, again, we must consider the price to reconcile the interests of industrial consumers and household consumers. I repeat, everything I listed, what happened yesterday in the conference, and I will try to give you some answer, but in the meantime, to make you to be involved in the questions. Yes, we have seen recently that the conflict in Ukraine revealed Europe's vulnerability when it depends more than 33% on a single gas supplier. So in this context, we understood and we know that the European Commission launched the new energy strategy proposing through its 5 major areas, dimensions, energy sector development solution, and the action plan to implement it. We saw yesterday the statement of Mr. Šefčovič, and we understood that security of supply, sustainability, and competitiveness are so important for all of us and for new energy policy of European Union. Yes, we need to develop these 5 dimensions in accordance with the new strategy of Europe, but we need to see, in the meantime, where to find the money to finance these dimensions. Because if we find the money, the solution will come. So, as far as today, is no precise predictability in this field of energy. It is impossible to work out on a 10 or 20 years plan and to go through all these stages, since the market is as volatile as gas is. But we need predictability. So in this context, I'm here to represent TRANSGAZ and to present to you the concept of Black Sea project, which include several projects in fully concordance with what the European strategy will propose to us in the near future. So bridges through Europe, and if we look at the first map, you can see different actual and future potential couloir. What is the Black Sea concept? The Black Sea concept means that we have to integrate with our neighbors, I mean Bulgaria, Hungary, Ukraine, Moldova, in a bidirectional flow. In the meantime, we need to create new infrastructure and to update and modernize our actual infrastructure in Romania. And it's not very easy because our plan, Horizon 2020, it's more than 1.5 billion euro to spend on these developments. So yes, we have on the second PCI's list all of this important project for us and for Europe and for the region. And in the near future, hoping that the offshore Black Sea developments will be fully supported by the companies Exxon, OMV, Petrom, Lukoil, and so on. The discovery is there. This means that we'll create an alternative and a new European sources of gas for our region and for our continent. So, if we discuss about the first topic, we can see that the Black Sea project, it's create to increase the interconnectivity, as I've told you, with the neighboring countries, and to have an adequate transmission capacity in the future if the developments of the Black Sea will be available at very important capacities and quantities. Yes, these techniques is killing me. So the Black Sea project, if we look to the map, it's created to put it together, Romania like a bridge towards Western and Central Europe, Germany, Austria, Slovakia, Hungary, and Southeastern Europe, Greece, Bulgaria, Ukraine, Moldova, with a southern corridor, Caspian gas, and of course, Black Sea offshore gas in the near future. If we look at the map, this concept is built by several projects, and one of the projects, it's a project with a pipeline length of 550 kilometers, with 3 compressor stations and with a value at about 560 million euro, and it's a so-called BRUA project which connect Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary, and up to Baumgarten in Austria. Of course, in the first list of the PCIs, this was PCI 715. Now on the second list, I don't know exactly the number, but for sure that it's on the second list, which was published recently. The Danubian southern corridor, if we consider the Danube, the river who connects all of this region, means also to, it's the red dotted line on the map, to connect the Black Sea shore to Brua in the future, in order to be prepared to take the gas from the Black Sea and to connect in this respect with Bulgaria interconnection, with Hungary interconnection, and of course to send the gas to Europe. If in the future will be a good opportunity and sufficient gas in the Black Sea, Romania have Horizon 2020, 2022 to create the central corridor, practically speaking, to develop what we have now, but to put also some compressor stations at work, and to create the basis also to interconnect in the fully term of interconnection with Ukraine and with Moldova. Yes, only a few things about the relevance of the Black Sea project. As you know, it's a very challenging concept to put together so many projects and to respect all the European regulations and, of course, to be in concordance fully with the new strategy. What I can tell you that this concept, and to implement this concept, means that for Europe will allow to have the new gas supply sources for the European markets, located in the close proximity and easy to approach, and operated by huge companies well known in the world. The access to new supply sources will facilitate the creation of a fully European transmission route and will improve market integration. And of course, in our geopolitical context, the two practical advantages mentioned above represent a crucial alternative for the European Union to diminish its dependence upon the Russian gas, if everything will be in concordance with our plans. The Black Sea project also, you can see on the map, proposed the interconnection with Moldova, which is in operation, the interconnector in Iași-Ungheni, but it's not fully integrated because we still need developments in Romania, but especially also in Moldova, and look what's happened there after what's happened and what is happened in Ukraine, now in Moldova, and of course it's not very easy to deal such a project. But anyway, what I can tell you is that we are able to do all the efforts to integrate the country with the neighbor and to be prepared for the new project challenges. And of course, I wait if there are any questions at the end of the session, and thank again for the opportunity to be here. And I am proud that I'm with my colleague from TRANSGAZ, the only Romanians here, but we fully supported your conferences. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ciprian. Thank you for the information about the contribution of Romania, how to enhance security of supply in Central Europe and in East and South Europe. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce now Mr. Adam Marzecki. He is a manager of international projects from GAZ-SYSTEM from Poland, and he is substitute of Rafał Wittmann. Adam, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Klepáč. Thanks for the introduction. Unfortunately, Mr. Wittmann was not able to come here, but I hope that I will just give you some view from the Polish TSO perspective about the current process ongoing in the Central and Eastern Europe. We had the excellent presentations from Mr. Mareček, Mr. Kobolyev, and the other colleague, and I assume that I will be able to contribute to those presentations and just to present you the Polish perspective about what's going on currently in Europe. So as we all know, the European Union is the biggest gas importer in the world. We are importing more than 300 BCM per year, with a total consumption of 460 BCM per annum. That means that we are strongly dependent on the import from the external sources. So where the gas is coming from? The gas is coming from mainly from Russia. That's not a big surprise for the Central and Eastern countries, and from Norway. We have also the supplies from Algeria and Libya, and the rest of the gas is coming in the source of the LNG. The LNG was heavily discussed yesterday during the evening session. I will contribute to the conclusions from that interesting discussion, and of course, as Mr. Klepáč introduced, I will just give you the recent update about the Świnoujście. I hope that it is visible, because it's probably too much data on this slide, but the most interesting picture on this slide is the graph on the left side, which compares the Central and Eastern region towards the North and Western region of Europe. And as we are always discussing the situation in Central and Eastern Europe, and I assume that our goal is to pursue in the direction of the North and Western countries, and the idea is to become more and more similar to those markets in comparison to the current situation in this region. So the current Central and Eastern region is the defragmented. It consists of the pretty small markets. Poland is the biggest market, about 16 BCM annual consumption, but however, if we will add Ukraine to this region, and if we will combine all of these countries together with the Baltic states, we are talking about even 100 BCM region. But the current picture is that the markets are defragmented, so we cannot say that this picture assumes at present. The fragmented Market means that the prices on the markets are different, and what we are always concerned that why we have the different prices when the source is the same, the main source is the same. So what we can do about it? The answer is, of course, integration. This is also an interesting slide, assuming, again, if you will just look on the map and you can see an example, the blue squares. Blue squares means the LNG terminal, existing terminals. And if we just see on the right side of this picture, we just see that there's only one terminal at the moment in Baltic states, and the Baltic states are not connected to the Central and Eastern Europe at the moment. The LNG terminal in Świnoujście is the second one, but if we just compare the potential of the LNG regasification capacity versus Eastern Europe and Western Europe, you see that there's a huge difference. And the import capacities towards the Central and Eastern Europe are mainly from Russia. So you will see that we have we have 210 BCM per year capacity just to be able to import the gas from Russia. In the comparison, in the Western Europe, you will see the proportion is way different. That means that the Western countries are able to import gas from the different sources than in Russia. That means that they are in a way better situation than us. The missing item on this slide is the right below corner. That means the supplies from the Middle East. I don't know for how long we are discussing the potential supplies from the Middle East. It seems that we are still not having any single cubic meter from those countries. And we are just, we were discussing the number of the projects. We were discussing Nabucco in the past. Currently there's a TAP and TANAP on the agenda. However, those projects are ongoing, but whether they will be delivered, we'll see. The results of the stress tests, for those of you who knows the publication, the communication from the European Commission, there was a report called the stress assessment, and what will happen for the Europe if there will be a 6 months interruption of the supplies from Russia. So we have two pictures, and those pictures are really interesting because one of those pictures are assuming non-cooperative scenario. That means that the countries will not cooperate with each other. That means that they will just protect their own customers in order to be able to meet the demand. In the second picture, on the right side, you will see the cooperative scenario, which means that the countries will be trying to help in terms of the gas supplies with their neighbors. Whether this picture is true, I assume that some of you may have questions whether this will happen, because if it shows that if one of the countries, in example Germany is an interesting case, also Czech Republic and Slovakia, if the country will help to its neighbors, it means that it will lose some of its demand internal in the country. So this is really interesting what will happen in this situation. Again, for those of you who know the TYNDP, the TYNDP is the 10-year Network Development Plan, which is the publication of NSOC, the Association of the Gas TSOs. Again, in the recent publication, we have, you will find in the document 2 scenarios, assuming the interruption of the gas flow from Ukraine and from Belarus. I will just speak about the disruption from the Ukrainian source, which means if you'll just see on the orange square, that means that in two perspectives, low perspective at the top and the high perspective on the bottom, it means that in low perspective this picture assumes the investments which already have the final investment decision, which will be delivered in the next coming years. In the high perspective, we are talking about the projects with final investment decision plus the projects which still don't have the final investment decision, and which means that the Central and Eastern Europe, together with Southeastern Europe, are the most vulnerable regions in Europe. And what the situation can improve only in case of the additional infrastructure, and all in the case of delivering of the integration. What is the purchasing potential of the Central and Eastern countries? So we are always discussing the situation of the Russian supplies, and we still don't have any other source besides, well, coming LNG. But whether we are interesting customer for the external sources of supply, that's a good question, because this region is linked to the long-term contracts with the dominant supplier. So starting from the 2015, you will see that the long-term contracts are beginning to expire. In 2020 and 2030, you will see that the potential of purchasing of the new sources of the supply are increasing. So that means that this picture may change. So the other suppliers may come to this region and may just be a substitution of the current long-term contracts. So what we can do by 2020, I assume that 2020 is a good perspective. You can see on this slide that in 2020 there is still a potential to meet the demand of the Central and Eastern countries. What we can do about it? Probably what we can do is to integrate, just to deliver the missing puzzles on the picture on the left. I will just speak on the next slide about the Polish experience about so-called North-South project. But on the right side, we see also the potential other projects which are currently ongoing, which are on the agenda. Mr. Mareček introduced in detail the project of Nord Stream 2. Our position from Poland is that, well, this is additional 55 BCM, costs about 10 billion of euros. Why it is needed when the Nord Stream 1 is half empty or half full? So what is the reason to do that? Do we need an additional capacity from Russian direction? Probably not, because we are just seeking for the other sources of supply. But of course, this project will have the greatest, if it will be commenced, this project will have a great impact on this region, and my previous colleagues already explained why. The other projects on the south, they are still uncertain. So we know that Shah Deniz postponed the production from the fields. So that means that TANAP and TAP project will be delivered later than assumed. The other projects are on the discussion, but none of these projects currently holds the FID. So it's still a big question mark. So the view from Poland, what we are doing in order to change the situation. Just in 2009, we had just the opportunity to bring the 9% of the demand from the other sources than from Russia. In the last couple of years, we introduced a number of the projects in order to change the picture. So just to give you the summary, what happened in Poland starting from 2009, after the gas crisis called the gas crisis in Ukraine, we delivered two projects, which means the first Polish and Czech interconnector. We enhanced two interconnectors with Germany, which in total have the volume of 6 BCM, which is more than 1/3 of the gas supply to Poland. We are just finishing this orange perspective of the development, assumed development in Poland, and the missing item on this perspective is the LNG terminal in Świnoujście. And the blue scenario, we are heavily discussing together with colleagues in eustream and with Naftogaz, two big interconnectors on the south, assuming significant volumes and which should be finished in 2019-2020 perspective. Probably some of you also heard about the recent news about the GIPS project, the Polish and Lithuanian connection. This project acquired probably the biggest CEF grant in the history, about almost 300 million euros, and this project is currently on the agenda with our colleagues in Ambergrid on Lithuanian side, together with the other TSOs in the Baltic states. And of course, Mr. Kobolyev left, but I will just speak about our cooperation with the Ukrainians. So for the moment, we have just the small interconnector, assuming reverse flows towards Ukraine, which only gives the possibility to export 1.5 BCM per annum on the interruptible basis. However, we are working on the new interconnector, which could be delivered in 2020 perspective, assuming significant volume up to 5 to 8 BCM towards this region. Some of my colleagues which had the presentation before mentioned the PCI list. Yes, the same situation as in Poland. The vast majority of those projects are on the second PCI list. So Polish and Czech interconnector, Polish and Slovakia interconnector, Polish and Lithuania interconnector, second phase of the LNG terminal in Świnoujście, Baltic Pipe, those projects are on the second PCI list. And LNG terminal in Świnoujście, I was referring to the yesterday discussion about the LNG terminal in Świnoujście. So the good news is that I explained to colleagues which I met on the corridor that the first cargo is ongoing. So left the port in Qatar, and we expect the first cargo on between 11 and the 12th December. This is the first cargo for the cooling down of the installation. So this is not the commercial cargo, but the commercial cargo is envisaged starting from the Q2 2016. So the interesting case is that where's the money? Who will finance all of these ideas? Not only in Poland, but also in the other countries. So the good sources of financing could be just the savings. The savings, if we will just assume that from the current import from Russia direction, if the price will decrease towards more and more price in the Western countries, we are just assuming on the slide the TTF. Then the annual savings could be really huge, which could be used as a source of the financing. I don't have the slide, assuming the last conclusion. Sorry, that's gone. The conclusion on this slide is that the price once with the becoming integration and of the markets, the prices are going to converge and to decrease. The interesting case is about the Polish and German border. So, as I mentioned before, we delivered in the so far perspective the huge connection with Germany. This is the physical reverse flow on the Malnov point on the Yama pipeline. And immediately, the prices started to converge and just to decrease, in the sense to decrease. So the prices on the Polish gas exchange, PPX, are more and more correlated with the gas pool. So just to summarize, there is still much work for us to be done in order to integrate the market, and I hope that in 14th edition of this Congress in 2020 we'll be able to report that the market integration is a success story and we all delivered the project that we assume, and I hope that we all seen in this way. So thank you for attention. If there are any questions towards the slides, just ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam, for your presentation. And next speaker who I would like to give the floor is Kehr, Director of Business Development from Naftogaz, Czech Republic.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Klepáč. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor for me to present here at this conference the view of Naftogaz regarding regional integration of gas and market integration and security of supply. I would like to start a little bit more general, start with the European Energy Union energy strategy, the goals. And we know that the goals are derived strongly from the benefits of the European citizen. And this is a very important point because European citizens are even also energy consumers, gas consumers, and they are paying the grid of the TSOs. Not only TSOs, also DSOs and so on. But from the point of view of Naftogaz, we are paid by the consumers, and therefore these goals, is the first message, are also our goals. We share this completely. Very important second point is when we are talking about market integration and the benefits out of this, is that we have to have a clear view to infrastructure, which we could see already from the presentations of my colleagues before. Infrastructure is absolutely key in order to achieve cheaper gas or affordable energy prices, reasonable gas prices, yeah, efficiency, but also safe and secured energy supply. However, the times are changing. We do not have anymore a market which is market-based developed or can be market-based developed with infrastructure, and therefore we need also a key area that have to focus on a key area that means regulation. And I don't mean here that we need more regulation. I mean that we need appropriate regulation. But these two things are key, and from this point of view, I think so that we have to team up with politicians and regulators and TSOs have to team up in order to achieve these goals. A little bit different point of view to the market integration and SOS is when we are considering the gas supply chain. The supply chain we can structure in two parts. One part is the wholesale market from the gas sources to the VTPs, virtual trading points, and the retail part, then a retail market from the VTPs to the gas customers. Focusing on market integration, the main task of a TSO is, of course, to enable functional wholesale competition, and also by this enabling functional retail competition. These are the key tasks related in the context of the energy strategy, energy union, yeah? And security of supply means then supply route diversification, and maybe also integrate more strongly storages, gas storages into these markets. What are our means, the main means in order to achieve this? So, to build connection to neighboring markets. Yeah, focus is maybe here the Czech Republic. Yeah, we have to focus where to be better connected, to extend our connections to neighboring markets, but also more far away through other markets to gas sources. The second point is that we have to establish appropriate entry-exit systems with firm and free allocatable capacity, mostly, that the markets are able to work. We have to have an appropriate balancing system. We need an appropriate tariffication. So the discussion about the network code tariffication is ongoing. One point is, for instance, which affects us strongly, is the differentiation between transport and transit. Transport grid is paid by national customers. Transit grid serves for customers abroad. So we have also to distinguish between that we don't discriminate there in both directions. This has to be reflected in the regulation as well. And we need, of course, sufficient transparency. When we are talking about these means, then I have to say the better we are doing our job as TSO, the more costly it will be. And as we know, we have no growing gas markets anymore. And that means we have to find a different cost allocation mechanism. And this is maybe not fully designed in the regulatory framework today. Market integration, further market integration, beyond that what we did already, the tools for this are available. Thanks to the Acer gas target model, we have all tools, the toolbox, you can say, which are needed in order to go forward. So you can structure this in two parts. Further market integration in a more narrower sense means to combine your gas market with the neighboring market to enlarge this, either as a full market merger with all consequences, or just to merge the wholesale markets. That means to combine the virtual trading points and keep the distribution areas separated. These are two possibilities to integrate markets now, cross-border, or to go and bring your market closer together to a neighbor market. It means with investment. We talked about this. With market coupling, of course, this is a possibility to do. It's an implicit allocation of capacities, maybe not applicable for all capacity products, but it is a possibility. And of course, the implementation of the network code, which creates then the effective use of the existing interconnection capacities. This is a toolbox, and Naftogaz applied this toolbox, or tried to apply this toolbox to check what we can do in order to provide benefit to our gas customers, to be a reliable partner also to neighboring markets, because we are transiting also the gas for the benefit of the neighboring markets. And here I would like to present to you some examples what we are doing currently. When we are talking about investments, first the cross-border investments, we have the Polish-Czech interconnector. This was already mentioned by my colleague. And we have the bidirectional Austrian-Czech interconnector BAZI. This project, BAZI, Mr. Klepáč asked me to say some words to this, is a project that is relatively logical. The Czech Republic is not connected right now to the Austrian market directly. We have to go via other markets, Germany or Slovakia. So it could be that such a connector could benefit to more, contribute to more market integration. So we have a second project, Oberkappeln interconnection. This belongs to an idea to integrate the Czech and Austrian markets as a trading region, probably. So then you need more capacity between the markets directly. So, and here's a project which was, or is currently on the PCI list still only. Will not be on the next PCI list because we didn't develop this strongly right now, because first we have to talk about market integration issues itself. And what we are doing also is we are strengthening the reverse flows here in the direction of Czech Republic to Slovakia and Germany to the Czech Republic. So this all will contribute to the market integration. However, I have to say these investments has to be financed. We have to take care that the money comes back, and the regulation is not fully appropriate right now to do so. One possibility is to go via the regulation 347. When you have a PCI project, then it is not only that it's a more streamlined implementation, but you can get a decision from the regulator for appropriate cost allocation. And that's exactly that tool what we need in order to do our business, to connect the markets closer together, agree on a logical, sustainable cost allocation, appropriate cost allocation, and that the regulators can decide on that. That's a very, very important tool. For non-PCI projects, this is completely missing. Within our Czech market, we are now going on and would like to extend the capacity in the Moravian Moravian area in the east of the Czech Republic, because we have their lack of capacity and would like to improve this, which gives then more flexibility in the entry-exit system, contribute to the possibility to trade more, and have from this also an effect to the retail business. Market integration, cross-border market integration, we are more or less continuing with two projects. One thing is Central European Trading Region, Central East European Trading Region, CETRA. This was developed, or start of the development was 2012. And this project is currently on hold because of the change of the environment. It is something which, however, could be possible, but all framework condition has to meet and the conditions, and so we are willing and able to develop this. In parallel, we are doing talking also with the Austrian colleagues for more market integration. Try to connect our markets to each other. Here we have the projects, but we have also ideas to do it probably without having a direct connection. And we are implementing here the regulations come as it is our duty, of course, but we are also trying to contribute to a logical development of such regulations. So let me summarize what is the position of Net4Gas regarding market integration and projects related to this and security of supply, is that we share the goals of the energy union, specifically that it should be cheaper, become cheaper for the customers, because this is the source where we can finance out our projects. Key points are infrastructure and regulation, as I said this. Market-based grid development goes more into the direction of regulatory based grid development. Therefore, we need this improved regulation. The tools are available for market integration. That is not the question. We have just to apply this together with the regulators, together with the politicians, together with other TSOs, of course. We are ready. Net4Gas is ready to go forward for further market integration, also with market coupling. To think about where can this be applied in an appropriate way also for gas. Gas is here completely different than electricity. We have really large transit, and this is maybe the main point, the main difference. As I said, we have to align our regulation so that we can finance cross-border projects out of the markets directly, out of the by cost allocation into the markets in a good way. Of course, always based on a cost-benefit analysis. And we are welcoming the approach, the regional approaches here in the V4 region, to talk about what could be possible in order to create benefits to our customers in a sustainable, long-time way. Thank you. Pardon, and I have to say, this goes, the regional prospect has to be enlarged, of course. Also V4 itself is probably not sufficient because we know that our gas sources are more far away than the V4 borders, so we have to go beyond and to integrate also there, to talk also with the colleagues from the energy community as well, would be a pleasure for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point I have to interrupt the presentation because both of my neighbors, Andriy and Tomáš, have a very tight schedule. Andriy has to leave the conference at 11:15. It means we have approximately 10 minutes at disposal for your question and answers, and then we will continue with the last presentation. So the time's for you. Mr. Badida.
Thank you. Josef Badida, energy analyst here from Bratislava. Mr. Kobolyev, you mentioned it that on the Slovak-Ukrainian border there is Gazprom blocking reverse flow or backhaul, as you call it. But as we know, Gazprom is also carrying on some TSO activities in Ukraine. So I suppose you did mention your homework to in some way force Gazprom to give up these activities and to replace TRANSGAZ or Gazprom in these activities as TSO. So what are you doing really to motivate Gazprom not to be TSO in Ukraine? Because I think it is the key challenge in this reverse flow. And one comment maybe, because we listen a lot about integration, but as I heard from all the speakers, everyone is pushing its own project. There is no really integration, at least in infrastructure. Eustream for Eustream, Ukraine is also pushing its own existing infrastructure. We heard from Romania there is a Black Sea project, no Eustream mentioned at all. So that's really, it's a bit strange that we want to integrate, to be all together, but we are really very fragmented at all, at the fact. Thank you.
I will use the microphone this way. Firstly, about Gazprom carrying TSO activities. Well, they are not carrying, as I understand, the same way as in the Slovakian side, any physical activity. So it's totally virtual thing. So if there is joint desire of both real TSOs from both sides to interconnect, all activities can be carried out by TSOs, and there is no need for virtual TSO. So, speaking simply, Gazprom is not carrying out any activity which is critical and which can prevent two TSOs from having proper interconnection. The only element which is missing at this point of time that we have to do from our side is to make Gazprom provide shipping code pairs. Because without shipping code pairs, then further transportation of gas would be difficult. But even this issue has solution without Gazprom, as we discussed with our Slovakian counterparts and as with European Commission. But understanding that probably it will be very difficult to convince Gazprom to agree to any, or to give consent to any changes of the scheme, as I mentioned, we are going through two routes. One is negotiation, second is Stockholm arbitration, and there is potentially another route which might occur a bit later, is anti-monopoly investigation, which is carried against Gazprom in Europe. And at some point of time, Gazprom will be faced with a simple solution. They might try to keep to existing scheme, bearing the risk of being fined for violating anti-monopoly rules, or they might step back and say, okay, let's change the scheme to avoid the risk of being fined. And the closest the risk of being fined will be to the point of time when decisions is made, then the highly likely that Gazprom will change its tactics. But again, we hope that also through negotiation process, that issue might be also resolved. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Topolánek.
Michal Kehr, very personal question. I am Czech citizen. And I have a question. May I ask you how BATSI, as your planned interconnector, cross-border interconnector, will increase my energy security as a Czech citizen, and how this interconnector will decrease or reduce my bill regarding the price of gas, and more generally, not so jokingly, how the BATSI project will increase energy security of Central and Eastern European countries? Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Topolánek, thank you for the question. It's already an interesting topic. I can, without a problem, security of supply will probably not really increase because we have already a large security of supply there. We have connections via Slovakia to Austria. The project is totally driven from the economical point of view. We have the possibility to build a direct connection to Austria, which is at the end cheaper for the customers, and therefore we have requests for this, and we are following this logic. That doesn't mean that we have to build the pipeline. As I said, it is a commercial issue. It is not the direct interest of Naftogaz to invest now into such a pipeline. It is a market interest-driven issue.
Thanks. The last question for Andriy or Tomáš, please. Please.
Good morning. Dan Milstein from the U.S. Department of Energy. Just a question about the provocative quotes from the Vice Chancellor of Germany in Moscow that Mr. Mareček highlighted in his presentation. How do you see the European Commission reacting to this? Just, you know, what do you think the practical effects will be?
I think the simple answer is that we will see. I think that what we've seen, especially from the media, is that there is no final solution yet. Sorry. Everybody speak without the microphone. There is no final solution for both offshore and onshore. No. No. So, yeah. Okay. This is someone's trying to. Electric appliances work better if you switch them on. Oh. So someone's trying to spoil it, probably. I think we will see, because what we can see in the media, there is no final solution both for offshore and for onshore part of the proposed, so to say, Nord Stream solution. We've heard that Gazprom is promoting it. It's understandable from their purely, partially commercial and political logic. We've heard a lot of media fuss, especially from Germany, German politicians and German companies. But as for today, we've heard almost nothing from European Commission. But I believe that if they want to implement this project properly, at some point of time, they will have to go to ask the permission of European Commission. And then it will be decided, and it should be decided by the European Commission, not by German regulator or German politicians.
Thank you. And the last question is reserved for the chair. Andriy, in your presentation, you mentioned a lot about the possibilities how to enhance security of supply in Ukraine, but only through the gas supplies from abroad. And my question is, what about your own Ukraine resources? We know that Ukraine is able to increase own natural gas production at about 50%. I know there is a difficult geological condition. Many of these resources are located under war area, but still, what about your Ukrainian gas resources?
Thank you for the question. Firstly, resources are located not in the war area. We, as Ukraine, now have temporarily lost access to resources in Crimea, and it is a big question mark what will happen to resources in Black Sea. But there is still a huge resource base onshore, which is spread between eastern and western parts of Ukraine. There is big potential, and under the plan that was developed with the help of our international consultants in Naftogaz, and which was approved by the National Reform Council, Ukraine is able, and we will invest to increase domestic gas production by approximately from 35 to 50% in 5 years. Combined with decline in consumption, which is a result of both price increase and energy efficiency measures, that will significantly decrease dependence of Ukraine on gas imports in the future. The reason why domestic production of state-owned companies was not growing for the last years is exactly the issue of pricing, because gas produced domestically was sold to households which were paying a price which was just a small fraction of regular market price, and therefore there was no funds available for state-owned companies to develop production, whereas private companies, on the other hand, have grown production dramatically by several times within the last 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Andriy and Tomáš, for your presentation. Friends, thank you for your participation in this panel. All the best. And we will continue with the last presentation. Janez Kopač, Director of Energy Community Secretariat in Vienna. The floor is yours.
Sorry to be last barrier on your way to coffee break, especially after absence of coffee in the morning. But I would just, I will cut my presentation because otherwise you would be really angry on me. Only a few words. Energy Community is an international organization which was organized somehow to export the EU acquis to energy community contracting parties. 8 of them exist: Western Balkan countries, Moldova, Ukraine. And these countries became officially part of internal energy market, officially. Unofficially, things are, of course, a little bit different. Short overview. Energy community contracting parties had to transpose third energy package till the end of last year. Of course, transposition of third package is the basic condition to open the market, and the whole conference is dedicated to discuss about development of market. What happened? Serbia transposed the third energy package in December last year. Ukraine transposed it in April this year. and this was a big surprise because Ukraine was very delayed in market reforms, but together with IMF and World Bank, Energy Community Secretariat developed the gas sector reform implementation plan, which Ukrainian government signed in March this year. It was conditioned for $17 billion of financial assistance, and the first condition was adoption of gas market law, which we drafted in Vienna, and of course developed with Ukrainian colleagues till the end. It was adopted in the parliament, and it shall enter into force on 1st of October this year. It entered, but the condition was that 24 secondary legal acts have to be drafted, publicly discussed, and adopted as well from April till 1st of October, and we did it. What was, I would say, a world record in comparison to all EU member states and energy community contracting parties in general. So Ukraine is on its very good way to completely implement the third energy package. Not all secondary legal acts entered into force on 1st of October. Some of them will enter into force on 1st of January, but they're on a very good way. Serbia, as I said, transposed the third energy package, but didn't adopt all necessary secondary legislation yet. But they're on a very good way to do it during this year, or in first months of next year. And Serbian market is slowly opening. I know personally for at least 2 companies, one from Croatia, one from Slovenia, which are already entering Serbian gas market. And I believe there will be much more competition in the future as well, because Serbia is an interesting gas market. Moldova, we drafted them gas market law, which was approved by the government, now sent to the parliament, but political situation is very unstable and very unpredictable. Bosnia doesn't have any gas market law at all, neither first, neither second package, nor third package, and this is why we started infringement procedure against them, and they were already fined by Ministerial Council of Energy Community because of non-adoption of any legislation. Macedonia, which is also an interesting market, the only market which is increasing consumption in the region, is drafting its third energy package compliant law. Hopefully it will be adopted in next months. Albania adopted the third energy package gas law in September this year. Now we are assisting them in drafting the secondary legislation. Hopefully it will be finished in next few months. Montenegro, which doesn't have gas market, is also transposing the third energy package in gas sector, but this is more exotics. Second piece of implementation of third package is our network codes. Network codes in energy community have to be proposed by European Commission, but European Commission up till now didn't propose any yet. And the procedure of adoption is a little bit different than in EU. They have to be adopted by Ministerial Council and then later transposed. It's not like regulations in EU, which are announced by Commission and valid immediately. We, as a Secretariat, are proposing to Commission, but Commission has to do it officially, to propose to our Ministerial Council 3 network codes this year, and we are drafting them. This will be interoperability network code, capacity allocation mechanism network code, and balancing network code. Hopefully, Commission will then propose them to our Ministerial Council, and hopefully they will be adopted later this year, and hopefully soon transposed. But this is not under our control. Last thing which I would like to say is not related with the transposition of acquis. It's related to infrastructure, about which we were, or you were, other colleagues were talking today a lot. Energy community contracting parties are just transposing Regulation 347 as well on Trans-European Energy Network. It was proposed by Commission to our Ministerial Council and adopted in October, so last month, but with a very strange provision which somehow killed, I mean, the energy community contracting parties should be merged with EU because officially they are part of internal market. But this proposal was very, very cumbersome because there is a provision that projects of energy community interest, which are copy of projects of common interest, can be proclaimed as projects of energy community interest only if they are previously proclaimed as projects of common interest. And such a provision, of course, killed all the connections between EU and energy community. There was a proposal of a project of for common interest between Poland and Ukraine, between Hungary and Ukraine, between Greece and Croatia, or Greece, Albania, Montenegro, Croatia. I'm talking about Ionian Adriatic pipeline. All these proposals were somehow killed by such a provision. This is, I mentioned earlier that energy community contracting parties are officially part of internal energy market, but unofficially they are somehow a little bit cut off. The second thing, or the second issue important for non-binding these markets, EU and energy community, is interpretation of third energy package on both sides of the border, EU border. There are countries, Slovakia is one of them, which do not respect the same status of energy community contracting parties in transposition and implementation of third energy package as other EU member states. So Ukraine and Moldova and Serbia and so on shall be treated exactly in the same way as other EU member states in respect of third energy package on both sides of the border. I'm talking about interconnection agreements between, there is only one, between Hungary, one which respects third energy package, between Hungary and Ukraine. All other borders are not covered by a third energy package compliant interconnection agreement yet. The energy community is involved into some strategical project, infrastructure projects as well. One of them was South Stream, which was cancelled, thanks God, because it was not compliant with third energy package, and we protested against it heavily. Now there are several other ideas like Tesla and eustream. It's not directly connected with energy community, but indirectly, Nord Stream and so on. I can say that personally I don't believe in any of these projects because I think that time for big projects has passed. There are few things are happening. First, consumption in EU is decreasing, and also in energy community, except in Macedonia, which is not relevant market because it's not very big. Second, LNG is coming from United States. It will start coming in February, I think. Australia is increasing its production enormously and announced it will become bigger exporter of LNG than Qatar in 2 years. New sources are emerging, consumption is decreasing. So there is no economic logic for such big projects anymore. The only big project which is happening, investment is really going on, is Trans-Adriatic pipeline, which is financed by Norwegians, Swiss and Azerbaijan. But otherwise, I think the time for these huge, big projects has passed. Thing which is really needed and which really showed big potential for market integration are these small interconnections, which then building of reverse flows and things that smoothen the regional local trade. This is what helps, and this is also what is somehow on a priority list of European Commission. We can talk about PCI list, which has many big projects as well, but most important is where economic incentive is sufficient. And in infrastructure, economic incentive usually needs also some public funds. And these public funds, at least if we talk about European budget, and if we talk about Central and Southeastern Europe, are dedicated only to so-called CSEC priority projects. There are 6 of them. It's interconnection between Greece and Bulgaria, upgrade of gas network system in Romania and in Bulgaria, interconnection Bulgaria-Serbia, LNG Kirk, and additional capabilities to flow the gas from Kirk towards Hungary. This is, I believe, what is realistic, but everything else is currently only visionary project which will not, perhaps economically not be viable. But to conclude and to allow you to escape on a coffee break, I would only like to say that we don't need, I believe, much new infrastructure, or at least big infrastructure. We need to fully implement third energy package on both parts of Europe energy union, so it means in European Union and in energy community contracting parties as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Janez. The time for your question. Not the case. Janez, to build where? Okay.
Hello, good morning. My name is Tomáš Domborowski. I'm analyst in Polish think tank Center for Eastern Studies. Thank you very much for very interesting, informative presentations. I have 2 brief questions. First to Mr. Ciprian Alic from Romania. As we all know, Poland, Hungary and Slovakia also established reverse flows to Ukraine. Romania is also a neighbor of Ukraine, but there is no reverse flow so far. So my question is, what are the problems, what are the challenges, why there is no reverse flow on the Romanian-Ukrainian border? And the second question is to Mr. Michael Kehr from Naftogaz. Your company a few years ago introduced a very innovative project of
Yes, thank you for this question. It's a good one because we have to tell you, to all of you, that we work very hardly this year with our Ukrainian colleagues from TRANSGAZ. And we signed, first of all, a memorandum of understanding between the both companies, in which we stated that the accord of interconnection will be clarified this year. And quite recently, last week, was the last video conference regarding these aspects, and will be a next meeting in Orlovka. Technical matters and also the situation, the current situation, and the situation of the transit 1, 2, and 3 contracts create an impossibility, but first of all technical matters and concordance with the two systems. And of course the bridge of dialogue, which this year we increased the speed of cooperation. And what it's important for us to know that Romania fully supported the integration of the markets, including with our neighbor from Ukraine. And that's why on the PCI list, if we look very attentive, you can find that on the second PCI list include also this future interconnection.
Thanks. Now, Michael.
Yeah, thank you for the question to the CETRA project, Central East European Trading Region. I mentioned it in my presentation briefly. The project is not cancelled, the project is on hold. It is maybe also very understandable. When we started the idea to merge the markets, there was a situation that South Stream should be built, the transit capacities will probably fall free and would be available for market integration. As we all know, this changed the situation. We are now in an unknown situation. We don't know if our and how our transit capacities, available existing transit capacity, will be used. And from this point of view, the application of such an idea to merge the markets is very difficult, and therefore we have first to wait what is ongoing. Maybe 2016 will be then the next point where we can think more deeply about this, how this is used. It is complicated. What we are talking about is that we combine the wholesale markets of 3 countries or 2 countries, 3 countries here with CETRA, and there you need then relatively large entry and exit capacity, free allocatable, in order to provide such a market. When this is occupied by transits, then it's clear that you have to build then something. And then becomes such a project expensive, and then we have to do a different cost-benefit analyses and so on and so on. So uncertain situation, on hold, and not easy to solve currently.
Thank you, Michael, for your answers. Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, the time is over. I would like to thank for your attention. I would like to render my thanks to the speakers for their perfect presentation, and I invite you for the cup of coffee. We will continue at 12 with the panel number 5. Thank you.